Hello and welcome to Pulibrus Fireside Chats. Not as good as yesterday, but hey, it's something. Now, in this episode, we're going to be taking the PolitiScales Test. But before we get into that, let's go over the plethora of news stories that I chose to rip out. First, we'll start off with the one you just saw earlier. Joe Rogan goes on a surprisingly progressive rant on immigration, endorses elements of democratic socialism. This flew a bit under our radars, but here in this 2-week-old interview with comedian Duncan Russell, Joe Rogan finds the policies of child separation are deeply inhuman and goes as far as to say that we should adopt some form of free public education and nationalize healthcare. Now, there's a slight problem with them saying a surprisingly progressive rant. Joe Rogan is not surprisingly, but he's pretty progressive. Many people don't realize this. Like, he's expressed interest in universal healthcare. He's expressed interest in making the minimum wage $5, not $5, $15. That would be surprisingly unprogressive, but Joe Rogan believes $15 minimum wage. He's even for universal basic income. He's made like 50 segments on a show going about universal basic income. So, yeah. Joe Rogan, I mean, he even went on Ben Shapiro's show to explain how he's surprisingly progressive, and then Ben Shapiro's like, it's like, Ben, you fucked up, bro. But anyways, there's a bubble building in markets that will burst. Ron Paul says a massive bubble is forming in the markets that could cause a major sell-off in stocks, says former Congressman Ron Paul. Is there a written portion of this? No, I don't want to play the video because I might get a copyright strike. Now I might say, well, I mean, the news won't copyright strike you. Yeah, I mean, but I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to risk it on my channel. Now, progressives have been saying about this for a while. This is like Trump deregulating the market. It's not going to lead to good things. This is exactly what happened right before the crash in 2008. It goes well for at first, and they're like, see, it's working. Alright, let me simulate with my mouse. It goes up, it's like, it's working. It's actually going really good. And then, boom! Crash. The economy's gonna crash, and Bill Maher will be ecstatic because he's like, the only way to get rid of Trump is a crashing economy. So please, bring on the recession. You know, I used to like Bill Maher. That's a funny story. Maybe I'll go on a rant about him another day. I don't want to waste too much time because PolitiScales is going to take a while. There's not much to really say about this. Ron Paul is like, guys, and believe it or not, I'm pretty sure nobody's going to listen to him. Ron Paul said a lot of things that I don't agree with, but, you know, he'll say something that's like, guys, if we keep going in this direction, we're going to crash and burn our economy, and everyone's like, that's crazy talk. You're crazy. But, I mean, he'll be completely right. And that's how, and, I mean, remember, back in 2012, people weren't even looking at him as a viable candidate. They were like, I mean, you could pull up the Daily Show talking about how it's like, Michelle Bachmann and Mitt Romney and who's that other one? Rick Perry. They were talking about Rick Perry, John Huntsman, all those other guys. And then it's like, Sarah Palin might run for office. Those are the front. Like, I mean, you know what? This is gonna get slightly off track, but trying to find the poll that proves my point. Fuck. Can't find my... What's this? Can't find the poll that was... You probably know what I'm talking about. The poll I was referring to is like a poll where it's like shows the lowest, the candidate with the smallest amount of votes. Like it was showing like candidates like people. It was like showing candidates that had like 1 or 3 or 4% on the top, and then Ron Paul was on the bottom. You know, making sure, you know, basically trying to say like how people were making his campaign seem not as powerful, despite the fact that. Anyways, Red State Dem tells Schumer to kiss my you-know-what on Supreme Court vote. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has strong words for Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer efforts to unify the party against President Trump's Supreme Court. Manchin suggests to Politico that Schumer does not have any influence over whether or not he supports Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. I'll be 71 years old in August, you know, and you're gonna whip me? Kiss my you-know-what, Manchin told Politico, referring to whipping votes among party caucus. Now, I hope that this makes people not like Manchin a lot more than they don't. Manchin is the most conservative Democrat that I can think of, aside from maybe like Dan Lipinski. But Joe Manchin, he's not... That's not what I meant. He's like Kirsten Sinema. They're like, screw you, Chuck Schumer. And everybody's thinking like, yeah, you know, it's like, no, but they're opposing him on the right, not opposing him on the left. This makes people think that these guys are... No. What? I have these stupid technical difficulties. That's why I usually like to do it with my phone, with the stories. But speaking of Kavanaugh, I'm just gonna skip to this one. Paul says he's concerned about Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court. Kentucky Republican knocks Trump's nominee on privacy rights. Paul says he's willing to meet with Kavanaugh with an open mind. Republican Senator Rand Paul said on Sunday he's worried about Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh's record on the constitutional privacy rights, signaling he's far from certain to vote for President Donald Trump's pick in the closely divided Senate. Now you see, this is what I'm talking about. He hates, like, Rand Paul. He's reliable on this. He sees Kavanaugh as not that... He's okay with governmental spying, so he's like, you know what? I'm gonna oppose him. I think I'm gonna propose him. Like, he says that he's open to meeting with Kavanaugh, which it's not a clear-cut, like, thing, but, you know, it's good to see that, because, again, if you've seen my episode of Kavanaugh, you might understand, like, he's never explicitly said that he's against, or, he's against abortion, but it seems like he's, like, you know, like, Roe v. Wade was decided already, so it's the law of the land. I'm not going to overturn Roe v. Wade. But, you know, privacy rights is something that he's clearly not in favor of, so Rand Paul's like, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Lee says something about it in the future. I'm going to call it now. Manchin and Doug Jones might flip, and Mike Lee and Rand Paul might flip. Oh, and Murkowski and those other ones. Next story In rebuke of Dianne Feinstein, Kevin De Leon wins endorsement from California Democrats in the Senate race. California Democratic leaders took a step in the left on Saturday night, endorsing liberal state maker Kevin De Leon for Senate in a stinging rebuke of Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein. De Leon's victory reflected the increasing strength of the state's liberal activist core, which was energized in the election of Donald Trump as president. The endorsement was an embarrassment for Feinstein, who is running for a fifth full term, and indicates Democratic activists in California have soured on her reputation for pragmatism and defense of bipartisanship, as Trump and Republican-led Congress are attacking Democratic priorities on immigration, healthcare, and environmental protections. You know what? I'm going to show something else. This is a point. Me doing all this is building up to a point. Is it this site? I think it's this site. No, hold on. This'll be a while. I'm telling you, this is building up to a point. See, there's Kevin De Leon, that's Dianne Feinstein. Da, 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 da. Okay, so if I do all this and it goes all the way up to nothing, then that'll be healthcare. So Dianne Feinstein's website, Senator Feinstein strongly supports universal health care for all Americans, and with her colleagues in the Senate, stopped Republicans' attempt to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Yeah, that's what the website says. In an April 2017 town hall meeting in San Francisco, Feinstein said, "If single-payer healthcare is going to mean the complete takeover of the government and all healthcare, I am not there." You see what I'm saying? She is not for universal healthcare, but her website clearly says, "I am in support of universal healthcare." That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You don't say, "I support this," and then say, "I support that." Kevin De Leon, say what you will about him. I will say a lot of things about him. He's open to taking corporate money. That's a bad thing. But he does seem to have a history of fighting for universal healthcare in California. Would he have been the best candidate? No. I supported Allison Hartson, David Hildebrand, or Pat Harris in the race earlier than him. But Kevin De Leon is the more progressive, is somewhat of a progressive, more like an Elizabeth Warren kind of progressive, but, you know. Next story. Trump labels the European Union as a foe. President Trump declared in an interview aired on Sunday, and the European Union is a foe because of its economic policies. I think we have lots of foes. I think European Union is a foe. What they do to us in trade, wouldn't think of the European Union, but they're a foe. Trump said from his golf course in Scotland, Russia is a foe in certain extents, China is a foe economically, certainly they are a foe, but that doesn't mean they're bad, it doesn't mean anything. It means that they are competitive. They want us to do well, and we want to do well. Now, Trump has been making a lot of places recently. The quote-unquote Trader Summit, which is still rather stupid. The Trader Summit is... Oh, by the way, there was a story of Mueller getting 12 Russian people indicted. Like, they were arrested. I'm not reporting on that story yet because I'm waiting for developments on the story. I'm gonna wait to see if they are able to find them guilty. I'm not entirely sure if they found them guilty or not, but, I'm reporting on this one because I want to report on something Donald Trump related. I could have reported on a lot of things, like Trump turning his back on the Queen, which is like, ooh, I'm so scared. I don't care. If I were the president, I would do that on purpose. They'd be like, you're not showing respect for the Queen. I'd say, like Kyle Kalinske, there shouldn't be a Queen. If I were a member of the British Parliament, I would be seeking to abolish the monarchy. They're a bunch of inbred numbnuts. I don't want to be run by some inbred person, do you? I mean, Jimmy Carter, but still. Nah, I'm just messing with you, Jimmy. Just because you're a Southerner. I hate Southerners, which is why I hate myself. Okay, anyways. Next one. Green candidate enters tightly contested 13th congressional race. Republican lawmakers changed the election law in 2017, allowing smaller parties like the Greens and the Constitutional... It's not the Constitutional Party, it's the Constitution Party. I have a whole video about that, but anyways... To gain ballot access. Now, a Green Party candidate is running in the 13th Congressional District, where Democrats are working to flip a Republican seat. The 13th Congressional District will be a four-way affair, with the Green nominee, Robert Coroner, joining Republican incumbent Ted Budd, Democratic challenger Kathy Manning, and Libertarian candidate Tom Bailey on the November general election ballot. Coroner, a labor organizer, received the nomination after making a pitch to party members during a statewide conference call that served as the party's nomination convention. The 13th Congressional District, which stretches from Greensboro west to Iredell County, has attracted significant interest from Democratic groups such as the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee to Swing Left, who has the hope of swiping it from Budd. The Green Party was granted access to the ballot alongside with far-right Constitution Party by a state board of Elections and Ethics Enforcement in May after submitting the required number of petitions. The Republican-controlled General Assembly passed the legislation in 2017 to reduce the signatures threshold to 2. Following the races. Now, I actually kind of want to endorse Coroner. Oh, he lives in Mebane, which is in my congressional district. I want to learn a bit more about his positions first, and from this I just haven't seen anything position related. I mean I follow him on Twitter and he followed me back, but he still hasn't responded to my DM where I asked him, what is your platform? But anyways, next story. Jeremy Corbyn told by veteran Jewish MP, "You're a fucking anti-Semite and a racist." Okay. Jeremy Corbyn has been told he's a fucking anti-Semite by a veteran Jewish MP after the party upheld a controversial new guidelines tackling anti-Semitism, HuffPost UK has been told. Furious former Minister Margaret Hodge confronted the Labour leader after the Church Commons vote on Brexit, telling him that he didn't want people like her running in the party anymore. Tempers flared behind the speaker's chair out of the range of the TV cameras as Hodge expressed her anger at the ruling NEC decision and new rules of Jewish hatred and abuse. After a heated 3-hour debate, the NEC tried to take the sting out of the one. But anyways, this is the woman who yelled at Jeremy Corbyn. Now, Corbyn is not an anti-Semite. it doesn't seem like he's an anti-Semite. Nothing really seems like he's anti-Semitic. He has had some moments where he himself not something, but people have been, like, he's critical of Israel, but, anti-Semitic? Not really. So, yeah. Now, we'll move on to the quote-unquote party of the day. It's not really a party. I kind of wanted to tackle a party, but something that kind of counted as a party, but instead I wanted to tackle this. The Liberalist Society. You may have heard about this from Sargon of Akkad, who recently joined UKIP. Which, by the way, Sargon, you talk about how you're classical liberal and you're center-left on the political spectrum. I'm center-left, and just want to make this clear. Center-left people do not join UKIP. Center-left people join the Labour Party. Center-left people join the Green Party of England and Wales. Center-left people join the Pirate Party of the UK. They don't join UKIP. For those who don't know what UKIP is, it's the UK Independence Party. And let me show you why people don't join UKIP. This is why center-left people don't join UKIP. This is why they don't join UKIP. And not just that, they've also recently gotten Milo Yiannopoulos, the Nazi Jew pug guy. Count Dankula, that's his name. And Paul Joseph Watson. They've all recently joined UKIP. Which, again, if you're Paul Joseph Watson has called himself I'm a libertarian, but I can't call myself a libertarian anymore because Gary Johnson made that term an embarrassment. Which, not really. Coming from a progressive like me, he was kind of the most sane libertarian out of all of them. Which, take that as how you will. Like, let's say you are a libertarian, and you're like, wait a second, that's rude for you to say he's the most sane one. But if you're like someone who's not a libertarian, you might be looking at it and be like, wait, he's the most sane one? Gee, I can't wait to find out who the insane ones are. Daryl W. Perry. But anyways, back to the Liberalist Society. This was Sargon's attempt to make a political ideology, which, to be fair, is not something that internet personalities are immune to do. Like, a libertarian YouTuber by the name of Mr. Dapperton wanted to make a political ideology called VOCAPS, which is a voluntary capitalist. I might talk about that one in the future, but anyways, let's move on to what the liberalist thing is. Welcome to the Liberalist Society. The Liberalist Society is a grassroots activist group that promotes the rights of the individual for protection and empowerment for each person in a society. We believe that it is the goal best achieved through the political ideology of liberalism. More information about our beliefs can be found in our Statement of Principles. Now, they're taking the liberal ideology and what it actually means, like a center-to-center right ideology that protects the right of the individual over the collective, which I really don't see a difference, personally. Maybe there is a true difference, but whatever. I don't identify as a liberal for that reason, because it's like, this is clearly the ideology of, like, those kinds of people. I don't want to infringe on their rights. Now, there are a list of principles. The Statement of Principles is a list of values that the liberalists hold as ideals. We also recognize that we live in the real world and that no set of principles can ever fully be realized, but promoting the worldview will produce a demonstrably better society than current alternatives. Individual rights. Protecting the rights of the individual must be the highest value of society to foster mutual tolerance and respect towards the cultivation of the dignity of every person. Constitutional democracy is the best way for a free citizenry to maintain a state and resist tyranny. Property rights that begin with person's self-ownership and private property creates the most productive societies. Freedom of expression is a necessary and fundamental pillar of a free society. People possess agency and should be treated as such because treating people like victims becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Each individual should be governed by the same laws as their peers without any arbitrary discrimination and be presumed innocent until proven guilty by a fair trial. And everybody is free to practice their religion or not as long as it does not interfere with the rights of others. Now, this is all well and good, I guess. This isn't a group I particularly would join, but, you know, I mean, if this is a group that you particularly want to join, it's fine. Personally, I also wanted to create my own political ideology. I'm not going to say what I would call it, or maybe I would, in case you want to steal it, in case you're thieving thieves. But let's see what their thing about being a liberalist is. Liberalist is an advocate for liberalism, an individualist ideology born out of the Enlightenment. It is a broad term that can be described as a proponent of classical or social liberalism, depending on one's preference, but the term is a declaration of the opposition to the collectivist ideologies such as socialism, communism, feminism, Islamism, and fascism. Wait, what? Collectivist? I mean, I guess technically these being collectivists as things make sense. But you know what? I think I'm just gonna go to the PolitiScales test. Now, I'm actually gonna preface this. This is probably gonna take the longest out of all the political quizzes because you'll see why. Welcome to PolitiScales, the online political test, because as we know, there are so few of them. You'll be confronted with a series of affirmations for each of them, and you'll have to click on the button which corresponds to most of your opinion. The questions assume that you are a citizen of a multi-party system and a market economy. You can always avoid answering a question, but if you do understand the meaning of one of them, try to invert its meaning by better understanding what is implied. The test tries to represent a wide set of ideas and possibly contains phrases that may be shocking, notably concerning racism and homosexuality. Okay? Oh, so they are inspired by 8 values. I should have probably taken the 8 values test first, but people would have picked PolitiScales, so we're going to do PolitiScales. Now, here's why that it will take pretty long. Yes, this is why it will take long. But anyways, categories women and men are social constructs and should be given up. I wouldn't say giving up on the terms women and men, or that they're social constructs, because, well, you know, penis and vagina. I guess I'd say rather disagree. Schools should mostly teach our values, traditions, and fundamental knowledge. These, no. This, yeah, I guess. So I'm going to have to say neutral or hesitant, because I can't really, because I can agree with this, but not that. The social rules of women and men can partly be explained by biological differences. Kinda, sort of. Because in nature, certain things are I'm just gonna have to say neutral or hesitant, because I don't want to say something that can be like, oh, so you're a super social justice warrior, you're sexist. Technological progress must not change society too quickly. You know what, I actually have to say, no. I guess I'd say rather disagree. No! I guess I'd say rather disagree. We should distance ourselves from protesters who use violence. Yeah, I'm not a fan of violent protesters. In a Malcolm X versus MLK scenario, I always choose MLK because Malcolm X is too violent for me. My country must pay the damages caused by the crimes it commits in other countries. I guess in principle, yes. But we also don't have the money to pay for that, so somewhat agree because I agree on the principle more. Differences of treatment and quality of life in our society show that racism is still omnipresent. Well, I mean, racism is still present, so somewhat agree. The filing and storage of personal records should be delimited strictly. The database of cross-checking should be forbidden. I guess this is a question talking about, you know, the government spying on everything we do. So I guess I'm gonna have to say somewhat agree. Sexual assaults are partly caused by man's natural impulse. Natural? No, not really. But again, this is a question that's kind of I guess I'm gonna have to again say neutral. Preserving non-urban ecosystems is more important than creating jobs. Okay, this is gonna stump me because, again, neutral or hesitant. I can't really see how maintaining strong economic growth should be an objective for the government. I guess, yeah, agree. Strongly agree. I don't get how this is a problem for me. I guess somewhat agree. I don't know. I think it's trying to tell us. These questions sometimes trick me sometimes. I do not have a problem if other official languages are added to or replace the already existing official language of my country. Somewhat agree. They can be added. Insurrection is necessary to deeply change society. Now, I'm going to check the Google textbook definition of insurrection. No. Violent. It said violent, so no. Exploitation of fossil fuels is necessary. Nope. Foreigners living in my country should be allowed to act politically equally to those who have lived nationally. Absolutely. Sexual orientation is a social construct. Nah, not really. I guess I'd say rather disagree. The age of retirement should be lowered. Now, I don't know the age of retirement, actually. So 66. No, that's fine. 66 years is fine. The language is defined by its users, not by scholars. You know what? Yeah, I agree. People nowadays say words that make no sense, but that's how language evolves. Language evolves like grammar rules. Many people are like, no, it's I before E except after C. Guess what? Nobody cares or gives a fuck. Nowadays, employees are free to choose when signing a contract with their full employer. I guess I'd have to say neutral or hesitant. It is better to arrest someone potentially dangerous preventively rather than taking the risk of having them commit the crime. No. No, that's racism. Activism in existing political organizations is not relevant to change society. Disagree. Mass strike is a good way to acquire a new right. Is this like a union strike? Oh, yeah. I totally agree. All sciences, even chemistry and biology, are not absolute and are subject to be shaped by our society. No. Science is science. It's just how it is. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. I didn't expect there to be this many sexuality related questions. I'm fine with talking about sexuality, but I'm not so sure. I might give an answer that'll give everybody. I can't tell. Like, some would agree because I agree a person should be transgender if they want, but rather disagree. I guess I'm gonna say neutral or hesitant. I'm just. Space colonization is a good solution for supplying lack of raw material on Earth. I guess. But a better solution would be to stop sucking the raw material from the Earth. So, I guess kind of agree. It is a small group that consciously and secretly controls the world. Well, dang it! I don't know if this one's like specifically talking about the Illuminati or like if they mean just literally anybody. Some would agree because the top 1% in money controls the world. Changing the system radically is counterproductive. We should rather transform it progressively. Yeah, I don't know. This word, of course, has a word that, you know, kind of piques my fancy. But, you know, it also may mean something that I don't mean. Like, for example, it might mean like when Boogie says, you know what, maybe we should make gay marriage legal in like 10 years. It's like, I don't know about that. So, and also because radically can be something different to other different people. So I'm going to have to again say neutral or hesitant. This is going to be a terrible quiz if I keep saying neutral or hesitant. The fact that some schools and universities are private is not a problem. I guess kind of agree. I mean, if some schools are private, that's fine. The main goal of a couple is to make at least one child. No, I absolutely disagree. Some sectors and type of employment should be financially supported. Yeah. Borders should eventually be abolished. No. Borders should not be abolished. ICE should be abolished, but not that. Abstinence should be preferred to contraceptives to preserve the true nature of the sexual act. No, absolutely not. Absolutely disagree with that. It is. Think about it. If some random sexually repressed teenage boy all of a sudden sees a girl walking down the street with like a shorts on, come on, you honestly think that he's not gonna do something? It's better to let him be sexually active, consensually, so that he can, you know, not have a huge throbbing member. Market economy is optimal when it is not regulated. Rather disagree. The market needs to be regulated. Natural shamanism. Is this... Hold on. Is this Che Guevara's thing? Is it just nationalism? Yeah, people should not be. Prisons should no longer exist. No. Private prisons should not exist. So I guess kind of disagree. It is unfair to set a minimal penalty for an offense of a crime. This question is so hard. I'm only on 36? Man, this is going to take forever. It is unfair to set a minimal penalty for an offense of a crime. Neutral or hesitant. Revenues and capital should be taxed and redistributed wealth. Yeah. Foreigners enrich our culture. Yeah. Social differences between ethnic groups can be explained by biology. Nah, not really. Social differences? No. Biological differences? Yeah. Like, for example, this is gonna go in a brief tangent, but and just, there are some biological differences between races. Like, for example, you notice how, African Americans, because, usually an African American student in my high school, you would have taken off his shirt while he was playing basketball, and he'd just walk past me, and he'd be kind of buff, but not really. He'd look buff, but not really. I say it's because technically Americans genetically modified them due to slavery. That may be something completely out of nonsense land, but so rather disagree. Offshoring and outsourcing are necessary evils to improve production. Nah, no. Keep jobs in America. Wage labor is a form of theft and from the worker by companies. Wage labor. I'm looking a lot of these terms up so I can get a better understanding. It's just employment? There's literally just employment? So no. The right to be anonymous on the internet should be guaranteed. Sure. It is necessary to teach history in order to create a sense of belonging to the nation. Teaching history is just good because, for this reason, I can't teach history. I just thought it would be necessary to teach history because of the whole thing of if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. So with this reasoning, I'm gonna have to say rather disagree. A good citizen is a patriot. Define patriot. That's the bigger question. I'm gonna check the Google definition of patriot. Because Rob Reich has his own definition of patriot. It really depends on what you mean by patriot. You see, because my definition of patriot is kind of different than something else. Someone who's willing to do the right thing for the benefit of the country, despite the fact that it might be unpopular. Now, for example, Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden are kind of what I would consider a patriot. They knew that they'd get in trouble for what they did, but they did it anyways. So I guess I'd have to kind of somewhat agree. Individuals who get out of prison should be accompanied in their reinsertion. Neutral or hesitant, I don't really understand the question. Looking for one's own profit is healthy for the economy. Well, duh. Everybody wants to get rich. The sacrifice of some civil liberties. Nope. That's a no. Just no. In some specific conditions, the death penalty is justified. Yeah. If there's absolutely 100% evidence that the crime was committed, then just checking to see if I answered the question. In some cases, the death penalty should be done. Pragmatically, there are some people that are just too far gone and we gotta get rid of them. We should accept changes in our way of consuming food to limit the exploitation of nature. This is a good question. I guess some would agree. No, wait. I guess some would agree. It just makes, something makes sense. Heavy penalties are efficient because they're dissuasive. Meh. Sometimes the punishment isn't really. Tradition should be questioned. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Members of a nation or culture have some unchangeable characteristics that define them. Neutral or hesitant. Multiculturalism is a threat to our society. Absolutely disagree. Doesn't make sense. Sabotage is legitimate under certain circumstances. No. Research produced by my country should not be available in other countries. Hold on. I think I'd just be absolutely disagree with this one. Research produced by my country should not be available in other countries. Absolutely disagree. I'm equally concerned about the inhabitants of my country and those of other countries. Kind of agree. I mean, in dangerous scenarios, people should be protected, I guess. Justice should always take into consideration the context in the past of the condemned and adapt their penalty accordingly. Justice should always take into consideration the context in the past of the condemned and adapt their penalty accordingly. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Marriage should be abolished. No. Elections organized by the states cannot question the powers in place. What? Elections organized by the state cannot question the powers in place. No, they have to question the powers in place. Transhumanism will be beneficial because it will allow us to improve our capacities. Now, for those of you who don't know what transhumanism is, it's basically the ideology of, pretty soon, we'll replace every part of our body to the point where we're just, robots. I guess kind of agree because they want to improve technology to make human beings, live longer. If two countries have similar economies, social systems, and environmental norms, then the free market between them has no negative impact. I guess agree. It is important to encourage an agriculture that maintains a food biodiversity even if the output is inferior. Neutral, hesitant. It is not acceptable that human actions should lead to the extinction of a species. No, wait. I think it is not acceptable that humans' actions should lead to the extinction of a species. I'm going to put absolutely agree because I'm not entirely sure what the question means. That's why I put absolutely disagree previously. Because it is not acceptable that humans should lead to the extinction of a species. I think that's bad. So I'm just prefacing it. I think that it would be bad for human beings to lead to the extinction of a species before I put down my answer. So if my answer leads to me getting pure communism or pure Nazism, that's why. Order and authority should be respected in all circumstances. Nah. Abortion should be limited in specific cases. No. The police should be armed. Well, duh. It is merit that explains differences between wealth of two individuals. Not really. Selfishness is the overriding drive of the human species, no matter what context. Nah, not really. In capitalism, yeah, kind of. We need to establish a monarchy to federate the people and... No monarchy. Reduction of waste should be done by reducing production. I guess kind of. No. Yes? You know how this goes. State-run companies should be managed like private ones and follow the logic of the market. Competition, profitability. I guess dismissals of employees should be forbidden, even if it's justified. If it's justified, then not really. We must fight against global warming. Absolutely agree. Armed struggle in a country is sometimes necessary. I'm guessing this means war, but just to be safe. I just put neutral hesitant because it depends on the circumstance. Humans should neither eat nor exploit animals. Disagree. They should be able to eat animals. Exploit them? Nah. It is important that health should stay a public matter. Yeah. Make the people healthy. I'm not one to talk, but you know. Social assistance deters people from working. No. That's not how it works at all. Nuclear fission, when well maintained, is a good source of energy. No. Get rid of nuclear energy. I want to move on to environmental energy. Transgender individuals will never really be the gender that they would like to be. Now this is going to be a interesting one. I guess I'd have to put rather disagree. Let me explain what I mean by that. I'm more of a gender identity kind of person. I will identify as female. It is necessary to remove regulations and labor legislation to encourage firms to hire. No. Regulation is good. It is necessary to avoid private monopoly. Yeah. It is acceptable that there are rich and poor people. Kind of disagree. I say kind of disagree because, like, the gap between them has gotten so big that our poor people now are, like, making a cent, whereas the poor people are making, like, billions and billions of dollars and just letting it lay around their, companies. Banks should remain private. Kind of disagree. We need to break up the banks. The influence of religion should decrease. Absolutely agree. Environmental norms should be influenced by mass consumption and not from authority. Kind of, sort of. We need to work, like... The government does need to introduce environmental regulation. That's just a fact. Because if we just let it go into the private market, they're not going to care. They're not going to care until we're already millions of years dead. Spoiler alert, we're pretty much dead at this point. So, yeah. It is necessary to implement assemblies to ration our production to the consumers according to their needs. It is important to implement assemblies to ration our production to the consumers according to their needs. Revolutions will always end up in a bad way. Kind of. Rather disagree, because the American Revolution led to America, I guess. Transforming ecosystems durably to increase the quality of the life of human beings is legitimate. Kind of disagree. Neutral hesitant. I just had to say neutral hesitant. Changes in an individual's way of life can induce changes in society. Kind of agree, yeah. My religion must be spread as widely as possible. PolitiScales, I'm an atheist, so you don't have me there. But yeah, for any religious belief, no, they should not be spread as widely as possible. People need to stand up for their ideals, even if it leads to them betraying their country. Again, I might have to put neutral hesitant with this because betraying your country means something different to different people. Patents should not exist. I don't really know about that. Patents seem like... Again, let me check the true definition of a patent, because I might be thinking that it might mean something that it doesn't. Kind of agree, because the patent shouldn't prevent people from making an invention, but it should show that they should get like money for other people making the invention. Homosexuals should not be treated equally to heterosexuals with regards of marriage, financial, adoption, or procreation. Absolutely disagree. They should be... Let me read the question again, just to make sure I didn't accidentally say that all gays should be murdered or something. They should not be treated equally. I disagree with them being... They have to be treated equally, yeah. It is necessary to massively invest in research and improve productivity. Yeah. A good policy is a pragmatic policy without ideology. All ideas come with an ideology, I'm afraid. But I guess I'd have to say to somebody neutral hesitant. The values of my country are superior to those of other countries. It depends on what you mean, so I guess I'll say rather disagree. Minimal levels of salary should be ensured to make sure that the worker can live on his or her own work. Yeah. The maximum allowed hours in the legal workplace should be increased. Neutral hesitant, I really don't know. We need to make compromises with the opposition to apply our ideas. No, not really. Compromise is bad. Let me explain what I mean by compromise is bad. Because we've been compromising. Because for me, universal healthcare is a good thing. A compromise would be Obamacare. I don't want compromise. I want universal healthcare. Loans contracted into the public sphere, states, regions, collectives, should not necessarily be refunded. No, disagree. A lot of loans should be refunded in the public sphere. Nobody is by nature predisposed to criminality. Yeah. Violence against individuals is never productive. Yeah, sure. GMO should be forbidden outside of research or medical purposes. No. GMOs are fine. Just make sure you label them. I guess I'd say rather disagree on that one. Activists must always act in strict accordance with the law. Well, not necessarily. Because the law could say, you can't protest. So, I guess kind of disagree. Hormonal differences can explain some differences in individual characteristics between women and men. And not really. I mean, kind of. You see, this is where we're getting to the point where some of the questions in the beginning are going to be asked again, but in a more different way, so that you might be more inclined to say yes to something that you were adamantly against before. So I guess I'll say neutral or hesitant. Hacking has a legitimate place in political struggle. Yeah, kind of. The state should be abolished. No. Citizens should take priority over foreigners. No. Biologically, human beings are designed for heterosexuality. Again, technically, yes, but energy and transport structures should be a public matter. Yeah, sure. Is it acceptable that some industry sectors are private? I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. The government should have a say in health. Like healthcare. The government should never have a say on what kind of car you buy. That's how social democracy and progressivism work. I regulate the economy, kind of. I regulate workers' rights. I regulate healthcare. But I will never regulate what kind of car you buy. So yeah, sure. It is legitimate for a country to intervene in the military to defend its economic interests. No. Conditions of life in jail should be greatly improved. Yeah, sure. The labor market enslaves workers. Again, I'm looking that up just to make sure it means what I think it means. Not really enslaves, but, you know, no one should get rich from owning a business, housing, or land. Well, no, that's not true. They just gotta pay their fair share. The proposed of the judiciary system should be punish those who went against the law. Kind of. Neutral hesitant. Because, you know, some are more lax than others. We're going to the last question, so better hope this isn't a neutral hesitant one. Euthanasia should be authorized. That's no-brainer. Yeah, sure. Okay, gonna close my eyes while I click yes, making sure that it's on the right one. Click yes. Okay, you can see it, but I can't. Ready, flag. Oh boy. Okay, so I didn't expect that. Whoa. So here's how PolitiScales works. They decompose me into 8 axes. Each axis looks into your positioning compared to the 2 opposing ideologies. Some particular characteristics displayed at the end of the page can also complete your result. For further information, look at the explanation of the different axes. Look at this page to help. I'll look at that page first. Constructivism versus So basically, there are 2 kinds of things. Like, for example, constructivism versus essentialism, rehabilitative versus punitive justice, progressivism versus conservatism, internationalism versus nationalism, communism versus capitalism, regulation versus laissez-faire, ecology versus productivism, and revolution versus reformism. It basically judges how I go within all of these. So let's start with... So my 3 main things are humanity, justice, and socialism, which in my opinion makes kind of no sense considering I'm not a socialist. I'm just not. In fact, hold on. I've taken this test before. Let me show you what my results were at one point in the past. This was my old results. Humanity, ecology, and work, and it had a different flag. So let's see how my old one goes with my new one. So first, let's look at my constructivism versus essentialism. 21% essentialist, 60% in the middle, 19% constructivist, 43% rehabilitative, 43% in the middle, and 14% punitive. Progressivism, 71%, 19% in the middle, whatever's left for conservatives. See, I had a 12% conservatism back in the old days. Internationalism, I'm 62% internationalist, 20% middle, and then that. For communism versus capitalism, 33% communism, 29% capitalism, and 38% in the middle. So this would be like social democracy, democratic socialism, 45% regulationism, 36% in the middle, and 19% laissez-faire. 33% ecology, 41% in the middle, and 26% productivism. 26% revolution, and 43% reformism. Now, I didn't used to have any revolution in me back in the old days. So, I guess maybe I got a little bit of Karl Marx in me. Again, many of these tests give me socialist, but I don't really define myself as a socialist. Like, maybe I got a little bit of Eugene V. Debs in me. More Eugene V. Debs in me than I think. So anyways, I got this flag. Looks stupid. Well, I guess that's it. Hold on, does this lead to the thing? Okay, so it leads to the same one, so I can include a link in the description in case this footage gets corrupt. So anyways, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And you can take this test yourself and send me the results if you want.